Welcome to Higher Edification, a podcast featuring college presidents and other education leaders talking about the state of higher education, as well as the challenges and opportunities we face. Higher Edification is a production of ACUP, the Association of Independent Colleges and Universities of Pennsylvania, and Misericordia University. I'm your host, Dan Myers, president of Misericordia University in Dallas, Pennsylvania, also known as President Dan on TikTok. I'm joined today by Jacque Fetrow, president and professor of chemistry and biochemistry at Albright College. Those were not two of my strongest classes when I was an undergrad. I got to tell you, I might need a little tutoring from you later
I can tutor you in biochemistry any day you want.
All right. I would love that. It's one of those things I look back and think about, and it's one of those kind of failures academically that I had. And I always thought, man, I should go back and get a chemistry textbook and, try to just convince myself that I could actually learn this stuff.
You could actually learn this stuff.
with the right teacher. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah, well, it's great to have an opportunity to talk with you today, Jacque. And I just, we're experiencing some really cold weather right now. And I noted on your sheet that you're a skier. Are you getting out in this freezing cold? It was 8 degrees or something this morning. Is that something? Are you a cross-country skier, a downhill skier? What do you do out there?
I like downhill skiing. I will admit that I grew up in Pennsylvania and I learned to ski in the Poconos. And I skied a lot in Vermont, New Hampshire, and New York in my youth. But I'm kind of a skiing snob these days, so I ski out west now. So my slopes are in Colorado. We went out to Steamboat Springs, Colorado, and skied for a week right before Christmas.
Oh, that's great! What a great way to enjoy the winter holiday break that we have in higher education. That's true.
Yep.
When I was a kid, I used to hate winter until I learned to ski, and then I started looking forward to it. So it's a great thing, and it's always great to have an opportunity to get away from this kind of intense work that we do and have a chance to think things over. I always find that I come up with new ideas and things when I get an opportunity to be out there in nature and away from things.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that's really important for us to be able to do for everyone.
Yeah, no doubt. The cognitive effects of those kind of breaks are really, really important. So, well, there's a lot of things we could talk about today, and you and I, we get going, and so we have a lot of fun talking about these different things. But there's a lot of challenges in our higher education environment these days, and there's a lot of noise out there too. And so, one of the purposes we have for this podcast is just to get some kind of perspective from people who are really working in the middle of this and trying to understand some of these issues, where they come from, and why they're so vexing and challenging to us these days. And one thing that's been the case for years is that higher education in the United States has kind of been the envy of the world, and people come to the US from all over the globe to get their educations. But what's happening right now is that importance on higher education is still valued very much, maybe even increasingly internationally, but it seems to be going down. The appreciation of higher education in the United States. In fact, the college attainment is actually dropping in the U.S. these days, and some people think that's a real omen of bad times ahead for the U.S. And there's a lot more people questioning the value of higher education and thinking that maybe that's not the way to go to be successful in life. I'm wondering how you, as a college president, think about that and interactions you have with others who are grappling with that problem. What are people saying and thinking about this kind of challenge to the value of higher ed?
Yeah, Dan, it's a really, really important question because you and I, we're in the job of higher education. We believe fundamentally in this education. And as you said, United States higher education still is the envy of the world. We are a net importer of people seeking college degrees. But that recent New York Times article that detailed that the U.S. has seen a drop of 8 points from 70 to 62% of high school students going straight to college, and that 45% of Gen Z young Americans believe a high school diploma is all you need. And it's vexing because the data don't support what people are actually saying. So we know from the data that a person who gets a higher ed degree, particularly a liberal arts degree, their return on investment is $1 million over a lifetime. It's a lot. They're likely, with our liberal arts degrees from places like Misericordia and Albright College, to be happier and to hold positions of leadership. And yet people are saying it's not valuable anymore. So the actual data don't support what seems to be becoming the belief out there.
Mhm. I wonder why that is. I mean, what do you think is stopping people from appreciating? I mean, there's a lot more to say than just, of course, the salary piece, but I think the latest version of that study actually said it was something like 1.4 million.
1.4,
I mean,
1.4 million.
yeah,
Yeah.
wouldn't you
And
like to have $1.4 million in your pocket when you finish your career? I mean, jeepers. So what do you think we could do to get people to appreciate some of this stuff more? It's
yeah,
really vexing.
I want to go back to your comment about it's more than just the salary. The whole Gallup study that looked at what it is to be happy, and they said these are the things that make you happy, and you get most of them in a liberal arts college degree. So in fact, they find that liberal arts college graduates tend to be happier, hold leadership positions, tend to be engaged in society. So you're right, it goes well beyond salary and that monetary return on investment. But you ask a good question, and so I think I could probably point to 3 or 4 or 5 potential reasons. I don't think we can say a cause and effect, but I think one of the things is absolutely true that we in higher education need to recognize, and that is and I'm going to say the perception of our price, recognizing like there is a range of schools, but in fact, over 50 schools of higher education cost this year more than $70,000 a year in tuition. When you think about the median household income in the United States of being about $74,000 in 2022, that means just 1 year is the entire household income for many Americans, more than half of Americans. And so to people that looks unaffordable. And it looks like it's only available to people who have a lot of money.
Mhm.
You and I know that isn't true. Just like buying a car, well, what used to be buying a car when you walked on a car lot, there was the sticker price and then there was the price you negotiated. We all give financial aid with our tuition. So what you pay in net tuition is not that sticker price. But I think people are asking about when the price is that high, is the investment still worth it? And the
Mhm.
data definitely bear it out. The investment is still worth it, but if you pay too much particularly for certain degrees, like engineering always pays off no matter what you pay. But being a teacher or nurse, if you pay a lot, if you pay one of the high sticker prices for that education and that degree, it does not pay off so well. So I
Mhm.
think it's a real price perception and a piece of it anyway is the price perception and affordability and what it is you actually will earn afterwards in the degree that you follow.
Yeah. Well, that's definitely on people's minds, no question. And I always encourage people to try not to react to that sticker price because, I mean, schools like ours, I mean, the amount of scholarshiping we give, I mean, people talk about how, they'll show you these graphs, with the inflation and tuition costs and, the only thing that might beat us is healthcare, but they don't show you that the increase in scholarshiping has tracked right along with that. And in fact, schools like ours, most of the students, the average student pays less than 50% of the sticker price in the end. And so I always say, stick through the process and, we'll work with you on financial aid and we'll see. And at the end, make a decision after you see what the package really might be, because it's often wildly different, especially if you're a student who has higher need. It's wildly different than that sticker price.
Yeah, it totally is. And you and I, our schools, Misericordia and Albright College, are members of the Association of Independent Colleges and Universities in Pennsylvania. And what is it that they show that our schools, on average, the net tuition, the net that students pay, hasn't increased or is only increased like by 0.5% over the last 10 years total. I mean, we compete. We are schools that compete. We're not state supported schools, so we're schools that compete in the marketplace. And so it has been essential to keep our prices down, our cost structure down, and keep our colleges affordable.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know our student body here is not well-to-do. It's a group of people who come from families that it's a real challenge to be part of this higher education environment, and so we are working very hard to try to keep those costs manageable for folks. And you hear these kind of exotic examples of where people will say, well, you come out with $200,000 of debt and you have a degree, and they make up some crazy degree that no one offers. And but that's not the reality either. I mean, I think the average debt now is somewhere around 35,000 or
Yep.
something like that.
Yep.
Coming out the other side, which is what a new car might cost, and that sounds like a much better deal. All of a sudden, you're going to make 1.4 million bucks over the course of your career, and you're starting off with $35,000 of debt. That probably wouldn't freak people out so much.
That's definitely not as big a price. And Albright's very much the same. We have long educated students of the middle and working classes, and we were one of the schools that did a tuition right size probably 6 or 7 years ago at this point. So that we were not one of the highest priced schools in Pennsylvania, simply to maintain that mission of educating students of academic promise, students of the middle and working classes. And it shows. We're ranked in the 30s in the U.S. News and World Report social mobility ranking.
That's terrific. Good for you. That's impressive. And I just think there's another piece to this too, is that students that come to our schools tend to graduate at much higher rates. And so, when people are giving scholarships or when they're paying their tuition dollars, it's a better investment, because whatever you're investing is more likely to actually give you the prize of the degree at one of our schools. And that's another piece of this that I don't think people are paying enough attention to.
I think that's exactly right. Not only is the graduation rate higher, the 4-year graduation rate is higher. So you're paying fewer years of that tuition. People always tend to think of the state schools being the cheapest schools or the least expensive schools. But in fact, I think our schools are as at the same price point for net tuition as the state schools.
Yeah. No, that's right. That's exactly right. And, I think there's something to be said about the experience that people have at our schools too. There's a thicker kind of sense of community and connectedness with your faculty members, with the people who are in your environment running student life and athletics and the whole bit. There's extra value in that experience as well.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Well, I know you have a podcast of your own. It's called Albright. What is it
Albright
called?
Out Loud.
Albright Out Loud. That's right. That's right. And I listened to a couple of your episodes. I thought they were terrific. And so I encourage everybody, go listen to Albright Out Loud as well. But there were a couple of them that were talking about athletics, and which I really enjoy. We have a very big athletics program here at Misericordia, and it's such a great part of the student experience and student life here at Misericordia. I'm wondering how it plays on your campus and how you see that as part of this liberal arts tradition, this small college thick experience. How does athletics play into that at your school?
Oh, it's a huge deal. I think schools like ours, like Albright and Misericordia, Dan, we're the schools that do athletics and college right. We're Division III schools. So the students are both athletes. They're pursuing their passion as an athlete, but they're also getting that degree and being really excellent students. And we at Albright find that the student athletes are often the leaders in the classroom and the leaders on campus are involved in so many things. So yes, close to 40% of our students are student athletes. We offer 20, what's the current count? 23 sports, including our most recent addition, which was esports, which has turned into a very popular program.
Yeah.
But I think that one of the episodes was about NCAA Division III athletics, and we interviewed my co-athletic directors as well as 2 student athletes who talked about the importance of why it would matter to them and why they actively chose to come to D3 schools, so that they could get both that classroom experience and that super competitive NCAA athletic experience, which is what we offer. And I think that's really, really, really important. And for those of you who are listeners out there, my podcast is Albright Out Loud, and you can find it on any of the podcast apps.
Yeah, I encourage you to go listen. It's good stuff. Another program that you did a podcast about that I listened to was the fashion piece that you do at Albright, which is one of your hallmarks. It's really a very special program, and you have some very unique experiences for students that virtually nobody in the country has been able to do. But it's interesting in there how that is connected up with the liberal arts environment and the stuff that you do more broadly for students. I was wondering if you might want to talk a little bit about that, just because I think it's such a great example of how you put this stuff together in a way that really makes a difference for students.
You're so right. The question is, how do you put these things that might be more traditionally liberal arts together with the more things that are the skills and et cetera of the profession, so students are prepared for the world of work. So our fashion program, we have several fashion tracks, so fashion merchandising and costuming came out of a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, our home economics program. And that modified and evolved somewhere back decades ago into a fashion program that has grown and evolved in ways that I don't think we could have imagined. So we offer our arts programs, all of them are not in the conservatory model. We educate students to really learn the discipline of the music or the art or the theater or the fashion, and at the same time understand and build those skills necessary to succeed in the business side of whatever their art is. So we have a major music industry studies major, and that combines business and music. We have fashion merchandising, and that again combines the business and marketing parts together with fashion. One of the really unique things, actually the unique, and I use the word unique carefully, but the unique thing about Albright's fashion program is that we are the only undergraduate college in the country who has a show at New York Fashion Week every September. We just this past September completed our 3rd annual show. So our students and our alums have juried designs on the runway at New York Fashion Week. So we all go up, we take a bus of students, and it's not just the students who are the designers who are involved in this, but of course the designers are pretty amazing. But it's also all of the business of running a fashion show. So we have students involved in the backstage of dressing the models, because the models are not ours, they're professional models. We have students working in the back on the programming, on the music, on the logistics of running a fashion show. This is all shepherded by one of our alums, R. Scott French, who is in the fashion industry in New York City, but we are Albright College is the only undergraduate college whose students and alums have designs on the runway at New York Fashion Week.
That's fabulous. Yeah, what a unique opportunity. And I love how you're integrating other pieces of student expertise, I guess, into what's happening there. What a great experience for people to really see how that works across and be a part of it. That's great.
Yeah, all of these things are so everything that we do, even the jobs you and I have, there's so much team involved. You can't do the work without being a team. And so helping the students learn that it's all of a team with different skills coming to the team is really crucial.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's one of the great things you get in these liberal arts environments is that we're attending to these kind of core critical skills that aren't just for your first job, but they're the kind of things that stick with you throughout your career. And being able to work and manage a team and so forth, that's one of them, and then there's critical thinking and all these others that are really developed through the kind of environment that we're trying to produce here in our colleges and universities.
You are exactly right about that. We're educating students for jobs that don't exist yet, that use technologies that don't exist yet. Think about artificial intelligence. It wasn't really this kind of competitive artificial intelligence wasn't even really available a year and a half ago, but our students need to learn to use this in the world of work. So schools like ours are not just teaching students the skills of a particular discipline. We're teaching them how to learn so that throughout their lives, as they're presented with new opportunities, new technologies, they have the skills to learn to learn. They continue to learn, and that makes them job ready, no matter what the world will throw at them.
Yeah, it's always interesting to me to talk to people who are successful CEOs and COOs and ask them what the most important educational experiences they had when they were an undergraduate student. And they almost always cite these kinds of things from their liberal arts training. It's really, I mean, almost without fail, these are the things they mention. So somehow this is another one of those things we need to get out there more and help people to understand that this is a piece of the value that you're getting in higher education is those skills.
Oh, it absolutely is. And I'm sure but I don't know our listeners. I think the Google data, their two projects, including Project Oxygen, really showed it best. Because Google was one of those way back in the beginning, one of those companies that was really snobby about, we're going to only hire the best computer science and computer engineers that we can get our hands on. That was what they hired in the beginning. But at some point in the 2010, 2013, they decided to test the hypothesis to say, what is it that makes you successful at Google? What is it that enables you to actually build a career here? And they found, in fact, it wasn't computer science skills. In fact, you don't even need computer science skills when you start, if you're willing to learn them. It wasn't high GPAs. It was, in fact, their students' ability the skills were being a good coach, communicating and listening, possessing insights into others so that you can hear and other different points of view and work in a team, being a good critical thinker and problem solver, and seeing patterns in complex ideas. STEM education and computer science education came in dead last in the skills that made you successful. And that's exactly what, schools like Mr. Accordion, Albright, and schools like ours help students to learn, because we're all about building connections between the disciplines. Sometimes students complain, well, why do I have to take this history course? Well, you're thinking about history at a time and what that culture was like, and you're learning to understand that there are different ways to think about the world. That will serve you well if you go into any career where you need to think across a difference or communicate across a difference. So this range of disciplines that we teach, and in the structured ways that we teach them, are invaluable. And I think the Google data really shows it the best, because they went in with the hypothesis that it was going to be STEM and computer science, and that came in dead last.
Yeah, it's so funny to hear you say that, because I have a friend who's a recruiter for Google. And, I said, well, here's how you could get to some more computer science. That's not what we're after. So they're actually acting on this. That's the last thing on his list, like you said, when he's going out looking for creativity and people who work successfully and teams grappling with difficult problems and things and computer skills they, as you said, you can learn them, and it's really interesting to watch. My son was a gender studies major, and he is a major computer engineer now. He's never taken computer classes, and but he's got that people skill piece and he learned a lot through his liberal arts kind of training. So
Yeah,
it's just wild to see
absolutely.
this.
It
Yeah,
is it
yeah,
is totally wild because you can learn the skills of computer programming. You can think logically, but learning the skills in women's and gender studies, those majors take the programs across like every discipline,
right. Mhm.
and really learn to make those connections and see the patterns.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, those broad reach kind of majors that they seem to have a lot of value for people. It's great to see those people get out there, and do something totally different in a way than what the core of their academic program was about. But there's all that other stuff
There's
that's
all that
around it
other
that
stuff.
got developed during that time, and not just in the classroom, in the student life stuff that we have as well. I mean,
Oh,
back to
absolutely.
athletics, you talk about a crucible for developing leadership under difficult circumstances. Sometimes, there's nothing like being on a losing team to teach you some good leadership skills, right?
Absolutely. Okay, let's pick our resilience. Let's pick ourselves up and do it again. I
That's right.
think that thinking across disciplines is really important. And I think one of the things that Albright has done that's really attractive to many students is something called a co-major. So we don't even require students to pick a single major anymore.
Hmm.
They can do what we call co-majors. It's not a dual major. You're not taking majors of both, but you're taking a very distinctive combination of of courses across 2 or 3 disciplines. And so and students can put them together in different mix and match combinations, and we call them co-majors. So you'll see co-majors in biology and theater, or even political science and theater, or computer
Hmm.
science and art, which actually turned into a game and simulation development major because it was so popular with students. That real, how do I think of the disciplines as interacting in different ways is really important. There's a
Hmm.
book. Have you ever read, what's it called? Investing, the Last Liberal Art. Have you ever read that book?
Investing the last liberal
Yeah.
art. No, I don't
Yeah.
know that.
So this is when I was first appointed President Albright, my board chair, who's a private equity investor, or who was then the board chair, gave me this book and said, read this. And it's really interesting. So this guy's the author is a successful investor. And he makes the point that if he looks across the investment world, the most successful investors are those who actually take a liberal arts approach to investing.
Hmm.
So they look at an investment this way, and then they come at it from this direction, and then they come at it from another direction and another direction. They bring in the science and the history and the business and economics, and they come at it from all different. And he has a chapter on how each of the disciplines have applied to his investment decisions. He said the best investment decisions we make are when we bring all of those ways of thinking into the decision making.
Mm-hmm. That's terrific. Well, yeah, and I think a lot of the core curriculum, liberal arts requirements have been built around some of these ideas of ways of knowing that when you put them together, that's when they really become powerful.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah. I think that's exactly right. That's where the biggest insights come from.
So where do you think we're heading, Jackie? Are we gonna recover from what's going on out there? Are people going to start to see some of these things that we're talking about, and we're gonna see a revitalization of liberal arts? Or are we gonna continue to have challenges as we're trying to get through this next, I don't know, 10 years or so, when we're increasing or a decreasing number of high school students coming out and so forth? That's a big challenge to us demographically. But what do you think's going to happen?
Now
Put you on the
you're asking
spot
me,
here.
you're asking me to read into my crystal ball and look into the
Yes, yeah.
future. So I am unsure where. So I think I want to talk about 2 parts to your question. I am not willing to look into my crystal ball and say Americans are going to rediscover the value of higher education, or it's going to continue to decrease. I don't know what our society is going to do, and I think that's going to depend a lot on leadership. What I do think is pretty apparent, and you said it, is that the college age student population is declining in the United States. So yes, we will continue, all of us will continue to attract international students because we're still a net draw of international students. However, the reality is that there are not enough college students. We have too much product, our colleges, and not enough customer in the college age students. So some of us, as many schools are already doing, are expanding into the adult market, making sure students at any age can come learn at our institutions. It doesn't just have to be a 4-year degree. Some will continue to increase their international students, but it is in any market-driven business. There will be, and there already are, and closures, and there already are. So mergers and closures, I think, are going to become more common. I think the hard part in mergers about higher ed is how do you find that aligned mission? Because it's not exactly like a for-profit business. We all have campuses, so it is, where is the whole greater than the sum of the parts for a true merger to work, or what is that value? But I think the market is going to drive us. The customers are fewer. Our product, our colleges are probably too many for what the market has to bear. So.
It's always a problem because these kinds of operations, the expansion occurs and it's much more difficult to contract. You build a building for a reason, and then there's fewer people to use it, but you still got to pay the same amount to heat it.
You still got the building, right?
Right.
Exactly. You still got the building. So what are we going to use it for? Yeah.
We're not as elastic as some industries are.
No, we are definitely not. And I'm sure Mr. Accordia has at Albright. One of the things that we've looked at and taken advantage of is expansion of diversifying revenue. And we partnered with a program called Total Experience Learning in 2020, which is actually a way of teaching in the K-12 industry. So we've expanded our reach into K-12. And what that has turned out to be is a really amazing way of teaching, that it's also now expanded our teacher education programs to the point that my board has approved a new School of Educational Innovation because this way of teaching. So many of us will also find these ways to expand our businesses and partner in ways that diversify our revenue streams.
Yeah. Well, that's great. That sounds like a terrific creative approach to this problem. And yeah, we have to find those other markets, those new markets, those ones that are being underserved, and we have to start focusing on them more. As we have muscle to do it, we just have to orient it a little bit differently.
Exactly.
I think sometimes, yeah. So,
exactly.
Well, this has been great. It's been wonderful talking to you today. I want to thank everybody out there for joining us. We've been speaking with Jacque Fetrow, the president and professor of chemistry and biochemistry, and my new chemistry tutor at Albright College. And we hope you have enjoyed this installment of Higher Edification, brought to you by the Association of Independent Colleges and Universities of Pennsylvania and Misericordia University. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.